Redstone for Dummies is finally back after about a month or so since my last video, and this week we are going to talk about the /scoreboard command. It's a really cool command that allows you to do amazing stuff, but is also really complex, which is why this video will be either really long or will be made into two different parts. Before we start talking about the command itself, let me introduce you to this poster that I've made, which explains how the syntax for the command works. This image can be found on my Facebook page, for which you can follow the link in the description below. First of all, by looking at this picture, you can see that the command starts right here with /scoreboard. Then you have three different options. First one is objectives, followed by players and teams. Let's start with the objective. At that point, you have four more different options, which are add, remove, set display, and list. I'm going to talk about all of these in a moment, but let's start with set display real quick, because that allows you to set a display for your objective that will allow you to keep track of the points that are in the objective. So it's a quite important one. So here's how it goes. You go /scoreboard, objectives, set display, and then you have four different options: list, sidebar, sidebar.team. Whatever color, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, and then there is below name. So these four options are simply four different places where you can display your objective. I'm going to use, for all of my example, the sidebar, followed by my objective's name, just so we can keep track of the objectives, the points, and everything in it. Alright, now let's go and talk about add. So when you want to create an objective, you have to start your command by scoreboard, objectives, and then add. At that point, you then have to put in an objective's name. That is totally up to you. As long as there is no space in the word itself, it's going to be pretty good. So again, only one word names, which are as long as you want, I believe so. I don't think there is a limit for it, but again, don't make it too long. Just make sure there is no space in it. Then you have to add the type of the objective. There is death count, player kill count, total kill count, health, dummy, trigger, and criteria base. So when you've put in the objective's name and then the type of the objective, you're almost ready to press enter and actually create that objective. You just have to ask yourself, do I want to have a display name for my objective? That is totally optional. If you add one, it's going to display that name for your scoreboard. But if you don't, it's only going to display the objective's name, which is perfectly fine. Then you're ready to press enter. So let's do a few examples, starting with death count. So let's start with the command. It starts like this: /scoreboard, objectives, add, and then the name for the objective. I'm just going to call it death. Then the type of the objective is death count. And then I just press enter. That creates the objective. Then I'm going to set a display for it. So let's go like that. /scoreboard, objectives, set display, sidebar, because that's the one I prefer, and then the objective's name, death. Enter, and there we go. The display for the objective is set to the sidebar. You can't actually see it right now. The objective has to gain or lose a point for it to kind of refresh and then appear. So I'm going to kill myself. There we go. I'm dead. And as you can see that right here, my objective just went up by 1. My point is now 1. And if I, let's say, die again, I'm going to go up to 2 right here. And again, one more time. Now it's 3. It's really useful to count how many times someone died. Before I talk about the other types of objective, I'm just going to talk about the remove option, which will allow me to actually delete the objective I just created so I can talk about the other ones. But it is not something I have to do. I can have multiple objectives. I just like to keep it clean and just have the ones I actually use. So I'm going to remove the objectives called death, just like this: /scoreboard, objectives, and then remove my objective's name. There we go, it's gone. Let's do an example now with player kill count and total kill count. What they do exactly is pretty simple. Every time I or someone else kills something, it's going to go up by 1. The difference is player kill count will go up only if a player kills another player, and then total kill count will go up every time a player kills something. In my case, I am alone, so the player kill count will actually do nothing for me. I'm just going to talk about the total kill count. Let's do an example. I'm going to create the objective. Scoreboard, objectives, add a name for it, kills, let's say, and then total kill count. Press enter. I'm going to set a display for it. Alright, there it is. I've got an objective that will record how many times I've killed something. So let's spawn a few sheeps. There we go. Just gonna take a diamond sword actually and kill a few things. There we go. And there we go. I've killed 2 sheep so far, and my kill is 3 now. And if I keep going, it's just gonna keep going up. It's pretty straightforward. And again, if I kill a hostile mob, another player, anything, it's gonna go up. There is nothing that can bring it down, obviously, so every time you kill something, it's just gonna go up and up and up. Now let's do an example with the health option. Before that, let me just take a second and tell you that from that point on, I'm going to remove the objectives and set a display for it automatically, just to make the video a little bit shorter. So just to save time, I'm always going to remove an objective before talking about another one, and I'm also going to set a display on the sidebar every time, just to make that video shorter. Alright, let's create an objective that will use the health option. So I'm going to call it health. It's pretty straightforward. And then type health. Then let's say we're going to use a display name. I'm going to call it heart. Just why not? There we go. It's created. Let's set a display for it. Alright, that is done. Now, before everything appears, I just have to be on survival. Otherwise, I don't have any hearts. I don't have lives and everything. So, now I'm on survival. And I can just, let's see, damage myself. Let's build a tower using these blocks. Throw myself down. There we go. So, you can see that I'm actually on peaceful. So, my heart regen. But my heart here on the scoreboard is 20, meaning that I've got all of my hearts. If I take damage, it's going to go down, and then I regen. That's a really cool way to keep track of how many hearts or lives your teammates have if you're playing on a server or something. That's really useful. Let's now quickly talk about the dummy and trigger options. They're both special in the way that there is no in-game event that will actually make their score change. They're only going to change if you use a command to change it. And that command is going to be part of the player's argument, which we're not quite there yet, so I'm going to talk about them a bit later on. And then there is criteria based, which opens up a huge possibility of different kinds of objectives. There is a ton of different types you can use from that point. So here's how the command goes. It's /scoreboard objectives, add your objective's name, and then for the criteria base, you can go and check this link in the description below the video to check out all the different kinds of options. I'm going to do a few examples right here right now, but there's a ton more that I will not show because I would die before actually being able to showcase all the different options that there is. By using the criteria base, you can use the scoreboard to keep track of achievements, stats, crafted items, the items used, the items that broke, the kind of blocks mined by a player, what kind of entity a player killed, what kind of entity a player has been killed by, and a ton of other things. I'm going to show you guys how to keep track of an achievement and a stat. By looking at all the achievements, I think the best one would be diamonds. So let's do an example. The way it works is quite simple. You use scoreboard objectives, add, and then your objective's name. For me, it's, let's say, diamonds. And then you have to add achievement dot the achievement's name. For me, it's diamond. Press enter. Now I've just created the objective. I'm gonna set the display for it on the sidebar. Alright, that's done. I've also added diamond ores right here so I can do an example. When I mine a diamond ore, it's gonna drop a diamond. When I pick it up, the achievement for getting a diamond will be activated, which will give me a point in the scoreboard. And as I mine more diamonds, I'm going to pick up more, and then every time I get a diamond, it's going to increment my score by 1, letting me know how many diamonds I've actually got during my whole gameplay session, which is pretty cool. Let's now try to keep track of a stat. I'm gonna use the jump stat for my objective. The way the command goes is like this: scoreboard, objectives, add the name for it, and then you have to put in stat.jump, and then you press enter. Now it creates the objective. Let's set a display for it. Alright, that is done. Now it's going to keep track of how many times I've jumped so far. So if I jump once, it's going to refresh my objective, which will make the objective appear with a score of 1. If I keep jumping, you'll see that the score goes up and up and up as I jump. That's a really useful way to keep track of how many times I've jumped, or how many damage I've dealt, how much time I've spent underwater, how long I've run for. It's just a really cool way to keep track of different things. There's a ton more stats that I haven't talked about that you can see on the website that I've linked in the description below. Check that out. It's really cool, really useful, and it just makes things infinitely more complex and also more useful. Now, before we actually move on to another part of the scoreboard, I'm going to talk about the different kinds of display you can have. There is list, sidebar, sidebar.team.whatever color, which is part of the team's argument of the scoreboard. Again, we're not quite there yet. And then there is the below name. Quite simply, the list option will allow you to see the scoreboard when you press tab. Let's do an example. Right now I've got my health set up for the sidebar, but I'm going to add it to the list. So let's set a display, list, and then health. There we go, that's done. Now if I press tab, you will see that my health is displayed right beside my name. So that's just another way to show the score for your scoreboard. There is also the below name, which will show a player's score for an objective right below their name when you're looking at them. But in my case, since I'm just playing alone, it's not really useful and I can't really show that to you. So let's just take that for granted. When you look at a player, which I believe only works if you're less than 10 blocks away from them, not too sure about that. But if you're close enough to them, you can actually see their score over their head, below their names, hence below name. And then there is the list argument, which will display all of the different objectives that you have active at the moment. So let's do an example. Scoreboard, objectives, list, and there we go. I've got only one objective, which is the health one, displayed as heart, and it is of type health. It's pretty straightforward. So now we're done with the objective part of the scoreboard. Let's now jump onto the players part of it. Again, that is really useful when you have a few players laying around in your world. I'm alone, but I can still show a few things that are part of the players argument. So first there is list. So here's how the command goes: /scoreboard players and then list. At that point, if you press enter without adding a player's name, it's simply going to show all of the players that are being tracked by the scoreboard. If you put in a player's name, it's going to show the player's score for all of the different objectives that you have. Let's do an example or two. So let's start by doing the command without a name. So /scoreboard players list. You will see that my name shows up as a player that is being tracked by the scoreboard. If I do the exact same command, but if I add my name this time, it's going to show my score for all of the objectives. And for now there's only one, which is called a heart, and it shows my score as being 20 health. After that there is set. Here's how it goes: /scoreboard players set. Then you have three things you have to put in: player's name, an objective's name, and then a value. This command allows you to set a score for a player for a specified objective. Let's do an example right here. Alright, so here it is. I've got an objective that keeps track of how many things I've killed. So now I can actually change my score using the command. Here's how it works. Scoreboard, players, set my name or any other player's name, then the objective's name, and then the score I want to have or give someone. 19, let's say. There we go, my score is now 19 for kills. Then there is add and remove, which will allow you to add or remove points from the player's score instead of just setting the value to a specific value. So let's do an example for the add and the remove option. So scoreboard, players, add my name, the objective's name, and let's say 1 to bring it up to 20, just like this. I can also just do the exact same command with remove instead of add. So remove my name, objective's name, and let's say 10 to bring myself down to 10 points. Pretty straightforward. There is also the reset option, which will simply bring the score down to 0. Let's do a quick example on that. Scoreboard, players, reset my name, objective's name, then enter. It simply brings the score to 0, then it kind of removes the objective from the sidebar, but it's actually still there. It's just that I now have to kill something for it to reappear. Again, it's just like I created the objective, but then I have to kill something to refresh it. There we go. Let's now skip the enable. We'll come back to it later. Let's talk about the test one instead. The way this one works is when you write /scoreboard players test, then you have to add a player's name followed by an objective's name. At that point, you then have to add a minimum value and a maximum value. Then you press enter. What it will do is simply it will return a sentence that will tell you if a player score is in between your minimum and maximum values. Let's do an example right here. Now I've got a kill count of 7. Let's try the scoreboard, players, test my name, kills, and let's see, we'll test for a score between 1 and 10. It's going to tell me that score 7 is in fact in range 1 to 10. If I was going to test in between, let's say 1 and 5, it's going to tell me score 7 is not in range 1 to 5. I don't really see the use for it, but I guess it's pretty cool. Pretty sure it could be useful in adventure maps and stuff like that, but I don't really see how it can be used. I've tried using it with a command block and a comparator, but there is no current that is being outputted if the score is in fact in between your minimum and maximum values, so I don't really see how you can use that to your advantage. But if you find a useful use for it, let me know in the comment below. I'd be really happy to read more about that. Let's now talk about the last argument for the scoreboard, which is team, because yes, you can in fact create teams for the scoreboard, which just makes everything so much more complex because it was complex already. Alright, so there's a few options when you go in teams. There is list, add, remove, empty, join, leave, and options. Let's start with add and remove. Basically, you can create a team by using a somewhat similar kind of syntax as the one you would use to create an objective. But instead, you just have to put in a team's name. And just like when you want to create an objective, you can also add a display name. Let's do an example. I want to create a team. So scoreboard, teams, add. I'm going to call it Minecraft. And then a display name, don't really need one. Enter. Now I've got a team called Minecraft that has no players in it. I'm going to add myself to the team by using the join argument. So here's how the command for it goes. /scoreboard, teams, join, team's name, Minecraft in that case, and then a player's name, myself or another player. If I want to add myself, I can simply press enter without having to put in a player's name, because it's only going to do it for myself. But if I want to add another player to a team, I just have to put in the player's name. So now I'm in my team. It's called Minecraft and I'm alone in it. At that point, if I use the list option, it's going to simply show how many players are in what teams. If I have more than one team, I'm going to be able to see all of my teams when I use the list option. You can also remove or delete a team by using the remove argument. So let's try it. Scoreboard, teams, remove, and then Minecraft. My team is now gone. I'm not in it anymore because there is no more team. Alright, so now I'm back. I've created a team again called Minecraft, and I'm also back in that team. At that point, if I use empty and then the team's name, is going to remove all of the players that are inside that team. Let's try it. Scoreboard, teams, empty, Minecraft, and there we go. The team is still there, but I'm now not in it anymore because there is no more players inside that team. They've all been removed by the command. And now I'm back in it because I just have more commands to showcase. So if you use the leave argument, you can remove yourself or another player from a team. So let's try it. /scoreboard teams leave. At that point, if I press enter, I'm going to leave from my team. But if I add the player's name, I'm going to make that player leave their team. I'm alone, so let's just press enter. And there we go, I'm gone from my team. I'm now teamless, if that makes any sense. Finally, there is the option argument for teams. So here's how it goes. Scoreboard, teams, options, a team's name, and then you have a few more options. There is color, see friendly invisible, name tag visibility, and then death message visibility. So these aren't really a thing that I can showcase because I'm alone, but I can still explain how it works. First, there is color, which I can actually show. Here's how it goes. /scoreboard, teams, options, team's name, and then color. Then you have a few options. You can have different colors. Here are the ones you can use. Black, dark blue, dark green, dark aqua, dark red, dark purple, gold, gray, dark gray, blue, green, aqua, red, light purple, yellow, white, and reset. If you reset, it's just going to remove the color. But if you add any of all of these different colors, it's going to change your team's color to that specified color. Let's just use red in that case. There we go. My team is set to red. If I go back, rewind a little bit, and go back to the set display of an objective, there was sidebar.team.color. Let's do an example. /scoreboard objectives set display sidebar.team.red in this case, and then kills for my objective. Press enter. So now the objective that will be displayed on the right hand side of my screen is only the one that has to do with my team. So if, let's say, we have different players along with different teams, in my scoreboard on the right hand side, I'm going to only see the players that are inside my own team, ignoring all of the other players, which could be quite useful if you're doing games and stuff on your server which has to do with different teams. Now, the other kinds of argument you can use in option, I can't really show them to you, but I'm still gonna explain to you how they work and what they do. So first, there is see friendly invisible. After writing this, you have to add either true or false, then press enter. Basically, if you do true, all of your friends or all of your teammates are going to be invisible, so you won't be able to see your teammates. If you write false, then the opposite happens. You're going to be able to see all of your teammates. Quite useful. Then there is name tag visibility. You know how you can see another player's name over his head. Basically, this will allow you to change that. You have 4 options from there. Never, hide for other team, hide for own team, and always. Let's say we use never. Then whoever is on the team for which we have put never as the name tag visibility, no one will never be able to see their name tag. If we put in hide for other team, then only their own team will be able to see their name tag, but the other teams won't be able to. And hide for own team is going to just hide the name tag from their own teammates, but not the other teams. Then there is always, which will make their name tag always visible for everyone, just like usual basically. And then there is death message visibility, pretty much the same thing as the name tag visibility, but for the death message in the chat. Usually if a player dies, you'll see their name and how they died in the chat. If you use the never option, you're never going to see the death message from whoever is on that team. Hide for other team will make the death message appear on every player's screen that are inside that team. Hide for own team will make other players be able to see who died, but not the players that are inside the team itself. Then there is always, which will basically mimic how it works usually if you've done nothing to that option. So everybody will see everybody's death message in the chat. And I'm almost done. I just have to add one thing. I haven't really talked about the trigger options for the objectives. At this point, I think the video is long enough. I will not talk about it because there is a command that goes along with the trigger option, and I'm just gonna do another video that will explain everything about the trigger command later on. So if this video is up as you're watching this, click in the description below to go check it out, and if it's not there yet, please be patient. It's going to be there really soon. Besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, please like the video, subscribe, and share. Don't forget, you can also go check out my Facebook page and download this scoreboard poster that I've made for you guys. And besides that, thanks for watching, guys. Have a really good day.